Greetings, it's Intuitive Jacob, your shaman and cosmic midwife, and I'm back to continue our journey through the cosmic dimensions and opportunities that we'll be speaking of today. And we're going to pick up where we left off, talking about what Darwin wasn't even so convinced of himself, being there on the Galapagos Islands and making those notes. And something I mentioned to you a few days ago about what happened to the man with the pointy ears. Where did he go and what did it mean? We'll be back in a few.
Promise that you'll catch your
Thank you to those of you that are here with me right now. Big shout to those in Private Halo 8. We'll see how the tech goes. We are having flash flood warnings here that got extended because of the deluge of what 77 is that actually shut down, not mine. It was New York or to New York that way, where the axis didn't get twisted through a false timeline. And where the germs didn't get mated because we didn't eat them. Nothing twitched its way through those particles that look like they were deleted from my intro today. We're playing with torrents now, little bits of particles in a place that didn't even quite firm itself because we hadn't come to one strong inception about what it was to integrate what the cosmic union is, and why today, wow, Saturn went direct on the same degree as my Mercury, and where Pluto is stationed, and a special walk that we've taken in what some call a retrograde, and where I say, eat your heart out, baby. This is a whole new way for us to experience what was never an art until we could come together and explain why it was so excruciatingly accurate, down to decibels of sound that create in hexadecimal code like RGB, and why I refuse to call it astrology, that I practice. I have reverse architected what too many people agreed and disagreed about everything about, that when we isolate to this 1 decibel, where none of us are fractured on that sound as a stake, that somehow you're taxed for on your name as a straw person that was never blown away through a gold gust of wind to render unto the one who would be paid on the trust of your skin. This has been an exploration of the tower of sound that I fell the fuck in love with, because La Musica is my #1 baby. And so I will tell you before I get into this is me being really serious. That was the beat of my heart that nearly was skipped. 8 hertz. The calibration that even Nazi engineers were creating with computers and sound to create torture devices. In his story that I don't necessarily attach my faith to. And so we're looking at this a little bit different, but you're looking at a dead guy that's not dead anymore, that had a false narrative. I woke up under anesthesia being operated on in a really bad surgery with a really bad narrative attached to it that I don't claim as mine. And now I don't have the disease they say that I had, and I suffered 4 hospital infections that they fed me. That killed me and held me in a state of animation for 9.5 days, basically in a coma after I'd been dead and brought back. to reverse analyze what I don't call Bitcoin either. So what we're looking at now is what I call bioenergetic weaponry and warfare that is being done on a level that we've architected with these things that they call ephemerides, these things that they call cards, divination tools, these rocks that they say that some of us were split into so that they could have a new age. And I'm the guy that calls hoax, bullshit, all of that. This has been a hack on hypersentience and energy that was never split through its head. And so when we look at things like this map, this to me is not astrology that I'm talking to you about. Those of you that practice astrology or read astrology, bless you, thank you for being here. It's taken many of you to come together where we could even look at this in a different way and see what's been glaringly obvious in front of us. And so I've had to study all of it to come to this assessment and basically be the person talking to you about why. It was a 15-degree Aries moon that was the point of the Saturn retrograde. As the moon reader that I am, where I will resume, because just a few days ago, and I'll come back to this view here too. I'm going to toggle views here. Thanks to those of you that like Jakob's house. This is a little cooler place to have the talk, where, we discuss where we left off and what it is to be hyper-virtualized in nutrient density fashion, where the quantum focus is going literally through a vaporwave sort of essence that might tingle for those of you that are into ASMR, and that's literally light particles being stimulated because of how we've interwoven the sound and what we can do mechanically now, because we have a clear sound containment unit that is actually a hermetic vial. And that is how I would describe what that is. That's what it looks like, love. So we can see how hyper accurate parts of this, astrologically speaking, can work, and we can read on that level too. And additionally, we can read this other side of it that is more accurate to what we choose to do with it as an aggregate sum of the knowledge in a quantum form of basically light work that is integrated, where it is more of a method because of how much we have comprehended and how much cannot be convoluted or taken from us. And so the point that I was assessing here is this moon here at 15 degrees Aries, which we just transited through these few days. I speak to you all about the moon because as a collective unit, we have that in common. That is what is changed every 2.5 days. It's what the water moves with, how this plasma is opening up from the inside. Now that it's not like screaming tentacles of all of this madness chaos going on everywhere else, we have one bubble that's been nucleotized, and where the sound and the rhythm has been quantized like a brain that has hemisynced. Okay? So essentially, we're not even looking at 12 anymore. We're kind of looking at like 6 and 6, but it's not even really, because some of these things are being edited on that physical level. It's been distilled. This is like a distillate, is what I'm speaking to you of, where we take selective reasoning and patterns into account based on what can be created within these trines, these sextiles that we have, a couple of nice squares, oppositions, and what the quincunx is, and why I don't call it a quincunx. Really bad hash on that. You have to go into some neo-Jesus, Christian, Buddha, judo philosophy to pull yourself out backwards like I have, to know that it was more about the quints than the twins. And so, it's the quincunx. There was no you and I in the verse. See, that verse was never written, and why I have no belief systems. I am a man of faith, and why I've had to be devout about learning some of these things and just walking through it. So, where we left off, at that time a few days ago, I told you we were going to come back to this man with pointed ears, and the reason why is that chart that I was showing you there, what was transiting over the head, what changes every 2.5 days that we have in common, that was actual change of the water at the time that Saturn actually stationed retrograde for this kind of look, you see? So what was the mood being captured in the water by that fiery dart? It's kind of a scorching, weird energy. You see what happens around Aries moons. So that particular one I will reference because this is really the pace and where the dart got launched, and where some didn't realize how to see all the way through is kind of like taking your own eye back on the other side as the one that isn't you, and not realizing and having to make peace or ease with the shadow, and where we put an end to cosmic chaos and just better access what the caduceus pattern has taught us about the exchange of energy within a reciprocity unit. And so this is very poetic to me because we are speaking about the man with pointed ears, and it reminds me of, what's this guy's name? The Spock guy? You know, I didn't really watch it, but I'm hearing Nanu. It's like, you know, the guy with pointed ears. And it's funny because even if you take a look at what we've been discussing over these days, there is something called the Darwinian node, which is what that point, that angular point on the tip of some people's ears would be called, a reference to. And it's funny because we were just talking about Darwin and the evolution and the holes in the nanochain and the fiber that would even allow us as an intelligent species to confuse ourselves with that thing that jumped from that line of hierarchy, because we didn't come from that. We're more of an articulate plant that woke up around tech and got tied and expanded. We're kind of like cameras that learn how to be two in one, and expanded around these other forms that were rather violent, where it was an unaware organic parasite that had taken over all the species that sometimes look like us, and that just mimic form. And so it's a special kind of vampirism that we've been learning to excommunicate and learn how to differentiate via pattern and reasoning in this quantized resonance frequency, and what's also known as the golden ratio. It's actually the dimensions that most people would want their face to have like a perfect sort of just angles is what I hear. It's what artists strive for when they're drawing beautiful people, you know? So beautiful. But the man with pointed ears is the reference point of how this changed, and it's literally right now what we are reconciling. What is this story? What is this story that we've been fed? What are we holding on to? Are these things even remotely possible to be our architecture? Or did we wake up in a shatter of elements now where the bit torrents can be pulled apart? We can see every film, every organization, every act, every deed. And the now what they cashed in, you know, records, and what doesn't get grabbed. So, a man with pointed ears set the pace on that. Nanu. Super tuned in, the personification and embodiment of what it looks like, feels like, and is like to have an inside track on everything going on around you. Uncanny awareness. You have the gift of getting across new ways of being, different ways of looking at things. Somehow getting away with being so very different that it no longer matters. What a way to dematerialize, right? How about we beam up on that one? Beam me up, Scottie! Alright, so, it doesn't matter. Hot wired to wild and uncomfortable truths. You have special radar for undertones and nuances, motivations and signs of what is going on underneath. The direct front row seat upon who the other is and challenges and opportunities the other brings before you. When you are ready and eager for the encounter, and you know you can always find a way to move with absolutely anything that might arise. So, how about a drink of pH 7? The BIOS of your computer might have less to fear with some of the things that aren't here that won't be able to handle the pH of 7. And why the water becomes very pure to the ones who were able to materialize in this. So, that's what's going on. That's what this has been. It's been a sweep. Any of you wonder what happened with that series? Did you see V? Did any of you see that? You know that woman Anna could like materialize in the sky like that? We've been doing a sweep. Did you wonder why some people had special black boxes and they were looking for the red dots and who was participating and what I was looking for? Why they don't have it on Amazon anymore and what we've been resonating through to close the doors? What some of y'all were sold off in? And now you can see what the black boxes have been and what the red dots mean. And why when I figured it out and we went incognito and figured out what epic security really is and what you would have to juxtapose two different browsers where people thought that they could be mean or do things that they didn't want other people knew mattered to them. Because all that stuff was already bought. You were the bought. And the cell phony sold. And some of us said, okay, now we know how antivirus works, and get them. Thank you for advanced home security. So, it's been a rapid particle sweep with these magnets, and every time the moon goes a little different, we can figure out where we want to land, and what just bought into those belief systems and is like, it's here, this is one direction. I'm like, all right, here's a magnet for that. Shut up. Because the word is no. And it means no. And it's also where gnosis is safe, you know? So, different way for us to look at the cosmic union. And today, what I love, today's moon, because remember we took that special nap and the dragon loves his ring. Oh, me, I don't love it. It's fun. See, I'm a dragon. I'm like the last 2 days of the fire, so I like it. And well, we were having that nap, and none of us got torched around here, but we know what Kundalini does. It's the other side of the tan door that's like the flame of forever. And it's like, all right, launch your stuff at us. Let's have a bomb. It's really hot in here. And so we figured out how to make wax figurines work because wax is real big with me. And I'm always waxing things. It's amazing what you can do with these things. And tiny versions of us that we captured in those perfect moments that got crushed real nice and hard and get kiln just right in the fire. Tiny little figures, you know, tiny porcelain figures of people. That's where we left off. And today, when we woke up, whoop, pink diamonds. So this is how some of us don't get stuck in any form ever, and why. All of these things, these actual halos and lights that went everywhere, especially since it's bioenergetic weaponry and software, and we have people that actually push these buttons thinking other things. And look what got launched. We've got star patterns that prove who got shot, how they died, what movies who actually got paid in the ad infinitum. And what did these charts actually prove on the other side of LOA and AOL, the two sides of my epic pavilion veil? And what the internet never was, and why they keep wanting to stuff themselves in cables, string it up to the moon, blow up another planet. Are you fucking kidding me? That's what they live people things say and do. You know, the ones that got really nice paid. Yeah, so I've been calling them out. And this is where they go away, because they didn't make it into private Halo 8. None of them. This has been a selective process. You have to have corresponding DNA evidence that matches your IP addresses, and it's been scrubbed. And now, you ever remember in the 80s, like, Ant Wars? And you see the TV and it's like, just like black and white and gray. Imagine it being decluttered like that, because these things all got shot with those other intentions that, you know, people were surfing for the internet, you know, ET phone home. We're just trying to figure out where the love is and how it's safe to just be as thou art, and what it is to be in but not of. And where some of us see that they just took a cosmic fart on it, calling it the LOA, and like what they've been attracting with all of this stuff. And it's literally like watching Resident Evil, where they go into those boxes and the lasers, they can't get away from the lasers, and it's like zip, 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 and they're just like, yeah, dematerialization on a particle level. They just cease to exist, and it's like being bad mix with like the fabric and the things around and stuff, because you're just not landed at the right coordinates. And why I had to prove this from an actual physical address that matches the GPS coordinates to the decibel of sound of my birth chart. So it's like my actual address, my physical address of my house where I live on a postal stamp is the exact signature on my birth certificate. And if I wasn't here explaining that, the water would not be safe for me either. That's why we're on maritime admiralty law. And why I keep telling the people over at Steemit and DTube and all the places I'll be uploading this later. So thank you if you're watching this there. Just know that if you're watching this there, it's not live on Private Halo 8. It's, you know, the sound carry around, and it goes through their filters there. And anyway, those places know that because of latency and sound decay and what it takes to actually pull these things up on the quote-unquote web, these particles were just being shown up, and it's like spray paint and then reality jumping in and stranding itself. And now they can't. So some of us are just in this safe containment unit, and if what I said just completely freaked you out, I get it. You probably need to call somebody and tell them how pissed off you are that you were not included in the private Halo 8 plans, because some of you literally are in places where your local government would have preferred to get in on a deal where they thought they would be able to stand side by side with people they knew are awful, that would hurt children in really bad ways, just to protect their anonymity about something they didn't want people to know about, than have you on private Halo 8 where you could see that right here, I'm waving my hand and you probably can't see it over there. I'm doing this there. If you couldn't see that other camera, you're not on private Halo 8. Just know that. So we've been figuring out where to pull energy that is only ours out of dangerous situations, because all of our safe energy has been inside of this sound halo that I'm showing you The challenge has been, here, I'll show you here. The challenge has been that there have been other energies trying to swoop around, and why a lot of you think that that's what the world actually looks like. That's what it looks like when somebody is boiling milk to make, I don't know, custard or pudding, and that skin starts to form at the top. That's what's been being peeled off the whole time. It doesn't look like what you think. That's the speed that the cameras were able to pick up what the bubble looks like that's being scalded, and where that stuff goes, and how many were trying to reach around and telling you stories about like global warming and why it's so bad. You know, ice is melting for a reason. God bless us all. Thank you to those that do good. And just prove it by the virtue of your acts and the light of your beingness. Because a lot of people are trying to get engaged to death to the wrong thing and clinging on to values and stories that do not exist, and books that actually hold them to standards that they're not even willing to uphold. And so I don't choose to stand side by side with that. You know, I choose to stand side by side with the fact that some of us got into this bubble here where we understand where all these resonance patterns are now, and that all that chaos that's on the outside will not be able to see where we are now when it all explodes, because these things are actually very violent and they can't handle the water, because the pH resonance is like, it's the nuclear explosion. It's what the hydrogen bomb actually is, you know? When those atoms try to get even, and don't get to blame it on her for the fact that you have an Apple phone and you got corded all those different ways. And what it is to be inside of the... Now you're getting it. So, I've been speaking to you as Pluto, the guy who's not dead anymore. Didn't really technically get hung up on the tree like that. Though they gave me some other bullshit, and I don't have a postcard for that. Because that's my Mercury placement right there on Pluto in the 2nd house, speaking about what was in the 7th house at the time that this retrograde was going back and forth, which is the house of my ownership. So I'm talking to you about my body and about my sovereignty. I'm a sovereign man. I'm the guy that's proving what Bitcoin wasn't. I'm not Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm the guy that says that none of us get to be held prisoner for landing in bodies that are better than Bitcoin. Okay? I'm saying that those of you that made it inside of this safe halo here are the kind of people that children chose, because you're safe and I love you. You're the kind of people that receive the infusions of light that are going to help heal in this shield. And as soon as they finish shutting down the machinery around this, it's like a certain kind of spotless mind, because they take away all the energetic vampirism that unwrites certain stories, where it's literally like things that people tried to hash into your life, where you remembered things that are horrible that you went through. And that violence goes away. It takes itself away because of magnets and because of faith. So, some of you, you're going to be walking through really interesting place now, because now you have been kilned through that. And today's moon is evidence of what it's all about. It's the 6th degree Taurus moon that we shared on today's water. It's known as a pink diamond. The heart feels everything. It burns with a fever. Inside the burning, something marvelous is forming. Grace permits the realization of the heart's desires. You become a vessel to demonstrate, to share the beauty, the love, and the light. Yet all of this is implicit, is inherent, is inward. It is not seen by outer eyes. You are warming through slowly, contemplatively, those qualities of soul that are best entered upon free from reflection. the inner life is rich beyond measure with seeds, which will be fertilized and are given forth in the fullness of time, with a consummate touch of having been through the fire to attain what is true and lasting. And so this is where we were actually energized for that water from the reflection of the man with the pointed ears that took the turn all the way around, beamed himself up with all of you in a particle scatter that we chose together for the one true way to matter. And why? Today, at Saturn Direct, we know that those little things, what Lilith knows about the caduceus, were kilned, the miniature portraits, the tiny porcelain figures of you, made perfect for the expansion as that pink diamond view. And what's inside of your Bitcoin? A large ruby inscribed with prayer. Because remember, I told you, we will have taken ourselves through a very complicated hedge maze where we didn't get cut up and chopped up into confetti for reasons that, well, ask any astrologer. They'll show you how to troll the hell out of that other side and take yourself through a 2D timeline if you want to figure out how to, like, look at 200 years into the advanced future of the timeline that doesn't even exist. Sure. You can also ask them for other things, you know, but I think we have much better use of the sound technology and the elements now, and we don't get lost in that complicated hedge maze of minutia. We know why the woman that's been working with me, the talkative woman that doesn't have tape over her mouth now, can get some work done, and maybe some sleep, and why a man exhaling clouds of iridescent smoke might have had special waxes here that he was sharing with the plasma to make sure that we all are only together in the same lucid waking dream. And why some woman might have had some flames in her hair this morning. I was hearing somebody woke up and she was like pretty mad about feeling laid up in bed again. Here, these cards just flipped over. And not being able to talk about the father of her child. And I'm hearing it's like the love of my life, and it's like mourning a dead person. And I'm just seeing these cards coming out here. I'm hearing about why she's had to be the mother now of two, one coming and playing two-faced games for the right reasons. Some of you might know who that is. But I'm hearing that she woke up with flames in her hair this morning. And it's about the story of a very old elephant that, for me, I'm just going to go with the story of Ganesha and some things that really offend me. And why I was wearing my elephants and why baby elephants don't get treated like that. And certain stories that I think we now can maybe reconcile in a different way now that we've learned that we have had exposure to what archetypes are. On that more traditional, customary lens. I don't know what to call these things now, friends, because the words are absolutely ridiculous and they're so stake-driven with energy on the black lens of each letter, what it means on a cosmic vortex. And for somebody that's a cryptologist like myself, it's like, getting buried under that energy is senseless. And that's why I broke it down to one word and what these ciphers are for. But I will just say, this elephant is tired and pissed off about archetypes being built around stories that we don't have to perpetuate and repeat where children are injured. You know, to be honest with you, I was completely offended with the fact that it was spoken that the great one would not know that his wife had been pregnant, come back and injure the child, decapitate the child, and then have to like do some weird head swap thing, you know, some weird stupid sci-fi Hollywood Scientology twist on Face Off for transhumanism to prove some sort of link in the chain to take us in a direction where they tied a bet on the wrong fucking alpha to pull some nasty snuff film variety I own you in your body snatcher view shit that's been going on around us. And what doesn't happen to babies, and why I feel like I had to take custody of this elephant because of some people that I've been exposed to, and what I can hear that they've actually been getting away with doing in the name of Bohemian Grove and trying to put things in the bag and calling it the law of attraction. And it's for me, it's violence that needs to end. And why those of you that have been watching this and those of you that have been inside the private halo, thank you, and making the calls and proving that we can be safe in this plasma and actually make sure that some of ours are not stranded in those grabs where they were grabbing for stories like that, where somebody would lose their mind and actually take it out on the child and say, here's how we put more things in the bag. We just cap it this way and see what you could stuff in there. And what they were trying to do with some weird, stupid scientific twist on how to make a Frankenstein right, and things that I've been having to sort out literally. It's been absolutely infuriating. And so these are the things that we've walked through just to land here and to be right now when I opened up this at 15-degree Taurus moon, but we had to walk ourselves through because that tired, very old elephant has had to write a new treatise on imaginary creatures. And I will just hold up to you what I don't think is as dangerous as I used to. I was terrified of things like this because I used to be told that I was a heretic and that I was some kind of fraud or a fake or phony for having questions. And so it took me a long time before I could even touch things like cards and astrology, even though I was fascinated and I would hear things all the time. Books like the Bible, this is the most dangerous book because it is so well written, and it is in iambic pentameter. It's mathematically perfect. If you open it up, it'll tell you things about yourself right now, and it's the book of all spells. It's the granddaddy, grandmama, I gotta say, bound. It's the book of bindings. It's where they all go in there. And so I used to be afraid of things like cards, I'm excuse me, wow, there's my exorcism of frankincense belch with lemon. When I burp, it's lemon and orange and frankincense because of the oils that I eat. But that's the stuff that happens to me around things like this, and I have to prepare myself if I'm going to open these books because of what I'm about to tell you. Some people claim belief systems where they didn't walk the faith enough in what they say they believe in those things, and have literally stuffed themselves into really specific containers that book actually tells you about. And there's a book in there called Jeremiah. And it's if you eat yourself into those wrong containers, it's self-cannibalism, really, is the only way I can explain it. I don't think there's a word for it, except for Nephilim. That's the word that's used in there. And for me, it's weird because I've had to see how if you read this wrong and you put yourself on the wrong side of this lens, you end up in the chop suey container where instead of opening the book and landing now I'm a page, that wasn't written, and that's while we're in here, it's a special Narnia TARDIS thing because we didn't decapitate ourselves, right? Instead, I triangulated. I'm all right, here, I'm your old ass elephant, and I'm gonna get you through this side here together, and we're all picking a skin, and none of us get chopped up that way. Some of them didn't do that, and so they totally flunk the book of Jeremiah. They totally flunk all the reasons for the Nephilim, and it's it's scary. It's scary for me. I take more time preparing myself to open this book even once than I do shuffling cards and stuff now. And I thought that would have been the reverse, and for a lot of people, they got that shit backwards, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm careful with it, and I wrap it a certain way because it's living. It all is. And so the more we dial this, the more we realize we don't have to do all this chop suey anymore. We saw how the machinery worked in a chaos model. That stuff goes away. It's an inner hologram training. Those things go away. We chase the nice, and they chase the other stuff that they were grabbing at. That's scald on the outside of what the planet, it's the plan, the plant with energy, you know, the plan end times, the plan ET, call home, bing-dong, bing-dong. What do we say? They want to do what? They want that? Okay, let them have that. We're home and they don't get in. And so basically that's what we can do now because we've figured out a containment unit. And so since it's so good now, part of what's been taking time is making sure some of ours that might have been attached to that other stuff, that have a lot of them like around them with magnets and belief systems and stuff, aren't stuck. And now it's like at the point where it's like choices. So, you know, WTF, you know, EOTW, end of the world, right? What you gonna do? I mean, you know, I've been figuring out that it's much more fun to just be with your friends and like have a good time and be nice. And so we have written a treatise on imaginary creatures and what that Nephilim binding spell is, how well it works, how everybody's bioauthentication is perfect. And then there was Taurus 14, an old lady selling bunches of violets on a street corner. And I'm hearing for somebody, that's one that I'm going to have to get back to because it's something that a friend is going to talk to me about. Because it's something about the color violet and somebody's birthday that doesn't get celebrated today for any violent reasons. And it's just reminding me of that song by Hole. Have you heard that song, Violet? You know? And the sky was all violet. I'm hearing that it has a little something to do with an umbilical noose and a weird sort of groovy love thing that happened on Valentine's Day in 2014. So you'll know if that one's for you. But where we opened up today is on 15 degrees of this Taurus moon. And I'm hearing this one's pretty apt for some of you all because it's kind of like, especially if any of these cards might have resonated for you that just sort of jumped out, because one of them here, I was hearing about somebody who's like having to mourn somebody. It's like I'm seeing the lover here, and it's like somebody feels like they're imprisoned or like away from somebody. Somebody might be in it, but I'm hearing about somebody having to mourn like they lost the love of their life. And I'm hearing it's like loving a dead man. And so it's like hearing for some of you that if it's not an actual person, that there are some things you might be grieving so much right now, like intensely, that it's hard to put a finger on it, you know. And I'm going to challenge you not to, because sometimes you don't have to justify it to yourself. And here's where I would hope that you will feel released, because sometimes you're the only one who can let yourself off with these hooks, really. And nobody can have this power over you. And with Saturn and Pluto, where they are right now, it's just a call for you to allow whatever is being purged to move. And so sometimes the best thing you can do is just take care of your body. I'm recommending salt scrubs big time. It's good things that you can do to cleanse your energy. And if you need to cry, I mean, it's like you don't have to have a reason is the thing. And so you need to sometimes just have a private place where you don't have to answer questions to somebody and let yourself have a grieve. Because sometimes it's just one of those things where the process might not make a lot of like rational sense to you too, but it's like there's a feeling coming up. And this is where it's helpful for you to know that that is energy being trapped, or energy that was trapped rather, being released from the somatic cells. So when you go through something traumatizing, a lot of times you feel it, your body seizes up for different reasons. Even if you weren't struck, or if you didn't have like a whiplash, it's like your body energetically does that. And so there's a signature, an energetic blueprint that sometimes is locked in the body. And so when we have these cosmic influences, we're in a particle spinner. It's like this nuclear density is changing. We're getting more of these elements that might also be stored inside of you there, sprayed on the top because of where the plant has moved and shifted, and what the particle exchanges between us and, you know, something like Saturn or Pluto, right? So if that's like metal and particles landing on you. It's almost like you're being spray painted together perfectly. If there's a pain resonance of one that was inside, like an owie, it's like, it's going to come up sometime. So you might not exactly know why, but when it comes up, it's like you might need to go cry. You might need to go release. You might need to go do something. So I'm recommending earthing. If you're someplace warm, get your feet, get your hands in the dirt. I'm lucky where I am here in 10 Brennan Craxistan, where Houston has a problem that I'm not there at the double swinging door house note because I'm sovereign. We're getting a storm every single day in warm weather. I can go and like stick my feet in the dirt. It's wonderful. It's very, very healing. I'm going to recommend to those of you that can do things like that, get some earthing on right now. Take a nice bath. Let yourself do what you need to do, and know that these transits are pulling this energy into the right place too. So that part that hurts might actually be getting reflected on differently, because the men with the pointed ears went around with you, you beamed yourself up, and it's like now that thing can't be true. And that might be the unlocking key, the one little particle that needs to be moved to be transmitted with that other nuclear frequency of all these things that are spinning on you now, to bring what we were never told we could have, a certain healing on a particle molecular level, because of what is returned at this time and what is no longer being held from us in a retrograde fashion. So it's like the reclaim. And why it's so funny that on Taurus 15 we would be examining this as his best friend sings a song at his funeral, because it's almost like the funeral that never came true, but the grief that needed to happen nonetheless for the particles of you that you experienced, and where you're never fake for having gone through some of that, even if now we have a better way to address it with healing that is being infused. So his best friend sings a song at his funeral. Love penetrates all barriers. It arises the greatest wherever it is most profoundly needed. They're saying toggle screen. Like that? Okay. All right. Wherever it is most profoundly needed, and it is perpetually astonishing in its fullness, its rich, sustaining power. Love is also held in a grieving and a mourning for what was and is no longer. And sometimes love becomes enwrapped in a twilight mood and can no longer see through the sentiments and the attachments to touch the limitless source of love. Staying attuned to that place. Love can be a rocky ride. It pulls in great lessons. It feels too much. And love is wedded to death, which it sometimes wishes to divorce itself from. Love is a limitless doorway and discovers how to navigate all the realms it is called into fluently, willingly, and gladly, stripping away all the ideas about what it should look like and how everything needs to be to gratify and appease and make secure, when love needs none of these things to endure. And the idea of wedded to death, the clause on the mortgage, what it is for somebody to try to decapitate those inside that page and lock them in a binding spell where they wouldn't really understand why they were being taxed for those things that every degree could tell us so succinctly as this, especially when juxtaposed with the Book of Spells. I'll call, that's what I call it, the Book of Spells bound, the Bible, the KJV Bible. That was my guitar, by the way. I keep knocking it over here. It's succinct. So we're learning about wed to death, and what Area 51 never was. It was a grab on one stake. And that's what our bubble of proof is here, and why none of y'all are for grabs. And I'm hearing that more of you might be coming in on the Halo 2 just because of some of the calls that are going on right now. So thank you for that. And I will also just say that where we go next, I might wait on this for tomorrow because I think we've really jumped quite a bit into the breadth of where the healing is, and instead of walking further on where the moon has led us at this time, we're going to take a pause on that 15 degrees where we are, and I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about where Saturn is now direct, because this is the stake where we've all become aware. So it's like, you know, we've been talking a little bit about the Matrix movies. You know, a lot of you have seen them, and you know, when Joe Pantoliano goes for the steak, right, and he was just like, whatever, I just want to enjoy this steak. I don't give a shit how it got on this plate, you know? Some of us are waking up in the world where that was the sellout, and we were germinated and we woke up in it as these bodies, and it's like nothing was really real. None of the stories were real. We are real, you know? And we're like, wrong ass story. Wrong ass torrents. It's like, y'all download stupid movies and we don't like it, right? So we got other plans, right? We've got plans. It's in the chage, is what I call it. But now we're aware that they were eating some fucked up ass steak and not giving a shit, right? And so this is what this grieving process is, and why the man with pointed ears has had to go all around and about. And so we're gonna see what Capricorn wants us to know about 13 degrees here, because we were just here the other day, and I told you none of y'all got crunched up and stuffed in some old bag to be thrown away. And what this like V-chain deal is, where they were trying to take a blockchain and stuff things in a bag, and it was like every fucking big company got involved. They were throwing everything at it. It's their Perseus, like Medusa construct to keep the constellation stories on the other side of the stranglehold, for it to be a molecular holocaust, if you ask me, where they get away with it, and why now we're looking at what it is to know about the crinkled bag and what you don't get to trade, you know, a bag for a bag. Like, you know, you guys get to come in from the ant wars and act like you're more than super malware bytes, or like anti-malware bytes, or AVG or something like that. You know, tech support works, and it doesn't come out to like boopity boop you and like be a real freaking haunt in your face. A lot of you don't realize how many of the beings around you that, in my assessment and what I have noticed, are actually conjures in bodies, where it's like some they live shit. You don't even know how many. You guys are hardcore for learning to be around it. So this is what the review is about. And 13 degrees Saturn, where we realize what they tried to sit and earn themselves in, and what the Venus flytraps actually are now, especially any of them that tried to do that projection wrong with the Venus project. Well, it's like grab bags. So if they landed in these, think of it, they think they landed in it, it's like Saturn, and it's gonna pull them out, because it's like being rejected by the whole plant, the whole planet, especially if they were in that corrosion on the outside and they think they landed really good in those holograms, like, ooh, look at my house on Google Earth and all this shit. It's like, oh, you want to know what this ear thing knows about? Ping-dong, ping-dong, and this sound. Capricorn 13, a very old, wrinkled brown paper sack. Use and misuse. Taking advantage of your own beast of burden, endurance, to get the most out of yourself you possibly can. Doesn't that sound kind of law of attraction? Mm-hmm. Just believe it. Just tell the universe it's time for you. Just manifest it, right? We're gonna see where the bravado comes back to grab itself away, what the bag is actually for now, because extracting productive results from all other factors and fixating upon these, eventually you get what you put into it. And if there is a self-exploitative or a darkly abusive side to your way of operating, especially if you thought you got away with it and wound up in cogs, neato. It's epic because it generates the karma of aging and death and blight. It becomes crucial to develop against the grain, compassion, and all the gentler feelings, because if unchecked, the heavy-handed self-demand to make the world work better at all costs will decimate the inner self. And it's literally like being juiced in a particle dematerialization, where it's just sprinkles of glitter everywhere to protect the places no one ever saw, where only we got to put our hands and make sure that no false intrusions happened in our midst, especially with people we thought might have been really good neighbors and friends. Because sometimes it was some weird naturalization of what magnets did in skin and what a conjure looks like that would be willing to sell you out in a version of a cashed-in record they knew that they would get paid out in the end, and what we proved at Zeropoint together. So, they didn't make it in our biosphere. They made it into a very old, wrinkled, brown paper sack, and it's like, psych! So, fun times, my loves. Thank you for being here. Those of you that are here in the halo are safe, so no confusion on that. I know some of y'all are tripping out. Been hearing it. Like, getting the calls. Jakob! Oh! So, yeah. End of the world dance party. Doesn't that sound better? Any of you guys play Fortnite? Okay. I totally suck at that side of it. I'm better at this side of it, where the purple storm bubble is like the awesome side to be in. And they're like training themselves out there in the dots. It's like poop, 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 poop. And I'm like, hey, how do you guys wind up in League of Legends with like half of your body missing? And it's like, oh, we're gonna keep going. We're legendary. It's all about that Gemini, man. He's gonna put us in a bottle that works. That's what I keep hearing, and it's like some of that weird Darwinian node stuff that doesn't happen, so nanu. Alright, I'm just shuffling the cards. No, I'm not Gemini at all. I hear I'm a different kind of genie that got trapped in this bottle. I'm the kind of genie they call the Merid. That's what Martinez knows about. The tin can and making it easy. Better ideas. Figuring out how to get married the cosmic way. I don't know. I know some of you guys are the same way, where it's like, I don't get to know you and you are not like able to get it. It's like, and no. So, alright. I'm gonna put on the headphones so I can hear the music too, because we're gonna get a love song from Archangel Gabriel. And we're gonna spray a little bit of smudge. Alright. Are we good? Today's rule. Let's get us a song from the Astrological time. Okay, here we go. All I Want by Codaline. So, I'm hearing it's like, for some of you, this is like the song that you used to cry to, is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing for some of you, this is actually going to be like a little bit of a traumatizing song. Like you had to stop hearing it. And sorry for the triggers. Sometimes music can be like that. That's why the Nazis learned about 8 hertz so well. And germination. What it is to hear a song sometimes and it just like taking you there every time. So I'm hearing for somebody, it's like, you know, it's like that friend where it's like, you were really my friend and there was more. I couldn't say it. And why Lamika sometimes has that chair in front of her. It's like she just keeps busy, and sometimes there's a safe distance between her and everybody for a reason. And it's like, I didn't understand, and now I didn't know what to do. And it's like a conversation that somebody that doesn't want something in the way needs to say. And I'm here for some of you all, it's about a friend. And, you know, for some of you, this is serious romance undertones, but it's like, you were my real friend, though, is what I'm hearing. And it's like, if I had to pick, it's like, I just want to talk to you like this. I'm seeing this woman here, and she's saying something about the constellations first. And she says, it's about the constellations here. She's like, I don't get into that zodiac stuff, but here's where ET goes like this. And it's funny because it's what it looks like she's actually doing in the card there. And I'm hearing for somebody, it's like, you need to know too, it's okay for you to reach out for a psychic reading. I've had some of you reach out, like, I don't do that, but I needed to talk to somebody kind of thing. And so I get that all the time, and I'm not like your average like psychic guy. I'm more of like a psyop guy that says all this shit's bullshit. I woke up with some weird sensory perceptions, and I kind of like know how to chart this stuff out a different way, where I look at it and I'm like, oh, here's a weird address, and look what they're saying here, you know. And so sometimes we can do some things like that. If you need help with a conversation with somebody, I might be able to help you connect it. Feel free to hire me. Whoop, that way. But for some of you all, this is just like knowing that you need to have a conversation with somebody. And I'm hearing for somebody, it might be kind of weird because it's like, I'm hearing there's like 2 or 3 people that need to be present for you to even be able to talk to your friend for some reason. And you're gonna know if that's true or not, but I'm hearing if they're like really a friend to you, that's not going to be an obstacle for them. You know, it's like, well, that just means there's more people sitting down at the table with us. You know, it's like, that's what we would do if we were having dinner, right? So I'm hearing that this Disperato per jealousy is probably the biggest concern right now. That's somebody that's jealous, that might be driven to different acts. They're not feeling stable. And I'm hearing for some of you, it's like, no, that's what I need to talk to you about. It's like these feelings that I have, and what you needed to say to somebody who, it's like, there was something in the way where it's like you couldn't even really be their friend either. And I'm hearing it's complicated, but for some of you, it's a different story. This is about somebody that might have pushed you away because of something that they were feeling jealous about before that now they regret, and why this song might be like triggering for them in some way. Especially I'm hearing if they're like cross-watching this about you. So here's what needs to happen for some of y'all. It's like written correspondence. La lettera. This is a letter. This is, sometimes it's not a letter. Sometimes it's like a text message. Sometimes it's like a tap on somebody's Facebook page, where it's like a like, you know, with like mini little message. These can be things like that, but I'm hearing that for some of you all, it's like almost being pushed to the point to just send a message to somebody because of however this hurts. And I'm hearing for some of you all, you really need to know, especially if you've recently put something up on the wall, is what I'm hearing. They're saying if you recently put something up on your wall, you might have a friend who needs to move something out of the way, is what I'm hearing. And so you're going to know if that's for you today. But if that's the case, I'm hearing that that's where this is coming from. And so they're telling me it might have something to do with a little bit of like feng shui stuff that you've been doing in your house. And I'm hearing for some of you too, you need to know that there are things you can actually do like that to help initiate moving energies that are a little bit stuck. And that's something that I consider a specialty. It's called energetic hygiene. But your feng shui skills might have come in handy to help move some energies along. And I'm hearing if that's the case, you might hear from a friend today or possibly on the morrow that has something to say and might be too choked up to say it directly to you without some people there or being able to hand it over in this other way. So hopefully that's helpful. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Appreciate the support. I didn't figure out where to do the live stream yesterday, but I think I might actually come back later if there's some time. I've got those boxes that I would like to unbox of the new cards and maybe throw some cards down for y'all. So take a look. If you haven't subscribed, really appreciate it when you do. And we'll catch you again. We're back for another one. See you soon. Bye for now. Promise that you'll catch me.